sanitation, water treatment professionals, those that drive trucks and buses, and a variety of other occupational fields. Again, we continuously thank you and salute you for all that you do. We want to continue to share what we know with the public and our media partners, and we wanted to do it in this way to ensure we're doing it in the safest way possible. Our local news outlets are joining me through Zoom so they can ask questions and help us get the information out. While many folks around the country are eager to rush the economy back open at full speed, we continue to follow the signs. I promise you one thing, that I will fight for what's right for Savannah based solely upon what the medical experts tell us. One life lost is too many, and currently that one has been amplified sixfold. Governor Kemp and I have not spoken about his plans for reopening the state of Georgia, but based upon his press conference last afternoon, I do have some thoughts to share with you and the state's edification on actions I plan to initiate in Savannah and for Savannah. To be absolutely clear, I was just as surprised as the rest of the world when Governor Kemp announced his plans to declare openings of some businesses this Friday and a reopening of others 3 days later on next Monday. This was well in advance of the expiration of his April 30th order, and it was well in advance of even the suggested guidelines from the White House regarding phase 1 openings. The science tells us that gradual moves toward reopening should occur when there is a clear declining trajectory of new cases and the availability of widespread testing. At this point, we are still on the uptrend of new cases, and while testing is becoming more widely available, it is still not available for most people, and certainly not available for everyone. So it is difficult to get a handle on the length and the breadth of Savannah's exposure. In my opinion, we are still far from where we need to be before we can even consider reopening anything. Think about it. Gyms where people sweat and utilize common spaces and equipment. Think about it. Bowling alleys where shoes are shared and fingers are inserted into common bowling balls. Think about it. Movie theaters where common spaces and bathrooms and popcorn are shared. Think about it. Restaurants where servers are worried and concerned about those coming in for a meal. This is not how you want to reopen a community. And as a city that proudly has over 15 million visitors a year, people will not come here to visit if the people who live here don't feel safe here. If this is to be a phase in reopening, there are still so many unanswered questions. What to do about our citizens that are considered high risk? What to do about employees who have school-aged children at home and won't have any supervision because schools are closed for the remainder of the year? What to do about those unemployment checks that our citizens have been waiting for just to make ends meet from last week? What about residents in and employees of nursing homes, jails, and prisons? What about our local public safety officers who are experiencing difficulty enforcing the governor's current order? Governor Kemp has made his legal order, and as you are well aware, is crafted and legally narrow so that municipalities can do nothing about it. That's intentional. We accept it for what it is. But as your mayor, I'm telling you that you are the mayors and governors of your own households. You call the shots. in your homes and in your businesses. You get to choose where you go and where you don't go. You choose where your family goes. You choose where your children go. So I'm asking you to continue to follow the signs, to continue exercising common sense, and to continue to stay home. I'm asking businesses in the city of Savannah, I can't speak for anywhere else, wherever and however possible, to remain closed and not place your employees and customers in potentially dangerous situations. Please. There is no way that hair, nails, massages, and tattoos can be done at a safe distance. So I'm asking for Savannahans to persevere just a little while longer, to sacrifice personal care in the interest of personal safety. We love you just the way you are and just the way you look. Believe me. I'm asking for our churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples to remain closed for in-person services and to continue to meet via technology for a little while longer. I am asking you to continue to wear your face coverings, to maintain safe distances, and to protect those who you love. Now, don't get it twisted. We love, we appreciate, and we support our local businesses, our small businesses as well. But we realize that these businesses are owned and operated by people that we swore to protect. Many of our businesses would not be able to survive a sustained closure due to an exposure of infections. As for the city of Savannah, and because we care for our employees and our citizens, we will continue to operate under our current protocols. Recreational areas and community centers will remain closed. Entry into city facilities will remain restricted, and our employees will continue to work remotely as assigned. And our employees will continue to receive hazard pay as previously designated. Our city council will continue to meet remotely until we have determined by a preponderance of the evidence that it is safe to do so differently. And to be clear, we reserve the right and the obligation to close city parks if we believe that social distancing is not being observed. The Savannah City Hall will remain illuminated and red because we cannot forget, and we will not allow you to forget, that regardless of what you see going on across the state, that we are still in the midst of a critical health emergency nationally, statewide, and locally. Last evening, I spoke with Sheriff John Wiltshire, who informed me that his existing protocols at the Chatham County Detention Center will remain in place until further notice. Thanks to our great partners of the Coastal Health District, under the leadership of Dr. Lawton Davis, COVID-19 tests are becoming more readily available. Coastal Health District has a new call center to screen people over the phone for COVID-19 testing. You can call area code 912-230-9744, area code 912-230-9744, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Saturdays from 8:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. to see if you're eligible for a test. You can request a test through the call center if you have symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath. You can also request a test if you don't have symptoms. And if you're a healthcare professional, critical infrastructure worker, emergency responder, or someone living or working in a group setting. If you meet the criteria for testing, Health department staff will schedule you an appointment at one of their drive-through sites. You cannot show up for testing without scheduling it first. So please keep the safety of everyone in mind and call the health department or your personal doctor if you feel you need access to a test. As you know, our sanitation department is not collecting yard waste right now, but we have come up with a solution to pick up this garbage. And I would like to thank the city manager, Pat Monahan, and our city staff for helping us with this workaround. The company that helps us with our hurricane debris will make a one-time collection starting on this Monday, April 27th. It will follow the regular Tuesday through Friday yard waste collection schedule and will make a one-time pass through the city. This could possibly be the only collection for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So please, if you have leaves, limbs, or grass clippings to get rid of, make sure you take them out to the curb next week. We know that this is an uncertain and challenging time for many in our community who suddenly find themselves without a job or with fewer hours. If you are unemployed, underemployed, or still waiting to hear about your unemployment application, there are companies throughout the city hiring. Many businesses, like grocery stores, have a real need for additional help during this time, even if it's a temporary solution. As I indicated previously, we will be reaching out to the Commissioner of Labor, Mark Butler, to see if we can help expedite the applications of Savannahans that are seeking unemployment assistance. We are still asking you to limit your interactions with others, whether you're at work, exercising outdoors, or shopping for essential items. Even with close to 200 cases of COVID-19 in Chatham County, I will tell you that we are still blessed compared to other cities. We are blessed compared to the other places and the other mayors that I've spoken to that are dealing with utter devastation. But in order to continue our relatively low rates, social distancing must continue. God gives us common sense. We have to use it. May God bless you. May God continue to bless the city of Savannah. This ends my prepared remarks, and I will entertain any questions. And we have to do it one at a time, as I understand it. So if you raise your hand, I can recognize you. Ms. Hamilton, WJCL.
Mr. Mayor, you say that we're not at a point yet where we have enough testing available, although Dr. Davis told us last week that anybody who's showing symptoms now can get tested. What more do we need here for that testing to be more readily available?
Well, the fact is, right now, just anybody cannot get a test. You still be in school. We understand from the science that you really need widespread testing in mass. And we know that obviously people that have access to healthcare issues are less likely to be tested. Until we're able to get a significant amount of sample from our community to give us some type of assurances that the virus has been contained, then, I mean, for me, I'm not very comfortable with moving forward. At this point, we're still on the uptake. We have not had a flat day in a couple of days. So I think all the indications are we're still on the uptake.
And then my other question for you is, I know that the governor's orders are obviously the governor's orders and not yours. Although with a shelter in place lasting through April 30th, but these businesses are going to open Friday and Monday, how does a shelter in place really work? And if that shelter in place expires the 30th, what will that mean for the city of Savannah?
The reality is that we've spent the evening trying to decipher the governor's order, which in my mind are confusing and conflicting with existing orders. We don't have a clue. And again, until we speak in one voice and we're speaking consistently, people are asking the same question. How do you have a shelter in place that expires on the 30th, but you're telling people they can go out this Friday. Again, by his order before, the sheriff's departments and Georgia State Patrol were to enforce this. Well, the reality is that they don't have the capacity to enforce this, leaving our local enforcement to try to help in doing this. Again, it's been a mess as far as I'm concerned. Again, very difficult for us to be able to enforce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Jones?
Do you and other mayors and other, county leaders, whatever, have any plans to contact the governor's office to push back at all on the fact that you're not allowed to enact local measures under this new order?
I've spoken with several mayors across the state in the last couple of days. Some Georgia mayors as late as last evening and this morning. I'm not really sure. I think the governor was very, very clear, very, very intentional. Usually, from my years on council, the governor might enact something and cities can be more restrictive. He has narrowly defined his order to say that we could not, which to me is indicative of what his intentions are. He does not want us doing anything that is more restrictive. To me, that's a dangerous predicament to put cities in. And so we're going to do all we can to try to stem the tide. Beyond that, it's on him. Yes, ma'am.
And I realize the answer to this may be that it's still unclear, but does the fact that some businesses are allowed to reopen, will that affect the eligibility of businesses for any form of relief or loans, and the eligibility of people for unemployment if they're technically allowed to go back to work but they decide to stay closed?
Well, again, that's part of the ambiguity of this entire thing. There are multiple processes that this order really, to me, runs counterintuitive with. To me, it becomes a major issue. And what about businesses that are in the pipeline now that are waiting for the next part of the CARES Act? I mean, because they open, does that mean now that they're not eligible? What about those that have filed unemployment? If work is available, then generally they're able to work, so they're not eligible. What does that do with their unemployment claim? Again, these are questions that are above our pay grade here in Savannah. These are questions that could have been thought out and could have been asked had a conversation been initiated from the state to cities and municipalities. We're on the ground, so we're the ones hearing these questions. And unfortunately, we put our folks in a situation in which we can't answer it. We just don't have the answer. Miss Alexandria, how are you?
You didn't even attempt my last name.
Help me.
It's Bozargian.
Bozargian, thank you. Bozargian, thank you.
So you and a lot of other leaders have talked about how Governor Kemp's decision isn't about the science. So I want to ask you, what do you think his decision is based off of?
Well, our city attorney would call that would require me to be inside of his head and understand what I don't know. I do know that Georgia has tried to position itself as the best state in which to do business. So obviously, I know he's hearing a lot of pressure from business leaders across the state. And I think it's important that Georgia is the best state in which to do business. But I think that Georgia should also be the best state in which to live healthy, and the best state to live without the coronavirus, and the best state in which we are handling the varied needs of our constituents, whether you're in Savannah, Atlanta, Augusta, Macon, or Columbus. So, again, we, in order to understand the reasoning, I think that would have had a conversation would have had to have happened. It has not happened. So anything, beyond that would just be a conjecture.
Sure. And specifically in, Chatham County, at least St. Joseph Candler's has kind of said they've seen sort of cases level out, and that's why they're sort of resuming some operations like elective surgeries and reopening outpatient areas. Have you had any kind of conversations with them, about resuming operations and, whether or not that's, factual in terms of, seeing a downturn and or a plateau in Chatham County?
Well, I've spoken with the hospital systems in the last couple of days. I have spoken with numerous doctors and practitioners that are saying that this is absolutely the wrong way to go. They're very, very concerned because, again, this is a very fluid situation. We can level off and then all of a sudden have an uptick. But as we know already from the science, that people being infected over the weekend, we may not see for 2 weeks. And as our friend Mayor Dora from Albany will tell you, it only takes a day or two, an event or two, to have widespread explosions of infections. And again, what will happen if we're not careful is that this will happen at a rate that we are unable to anticipate or prepare for. Then our health systems become overwhelmed and unable to handle it. I think when we're talking about reopening, we have to consider the impact of those folks that are just tired already. We have to consider those. There are people who've been working long hours around the clock trying to take care of people. And again, we are working toward the light at the end of the tunnel. But the fact is that we brought the light into the tunnel. And, we're still in the tunnel. And I think it's just really I think we're going to lull people into a false sense of security that at this point is unlikely. Ms. Hamilton.
Mayor Johnson, this whole situation is quite obviously very frustrating for you. I mean, ultimately, do you just kind of wish that Governor Kemp had some communication with you and other mayors across our state before making this big of a decision for our entire state?
Well, I've learned that at the end, it is what it is. We have tried here at the city. I've learned that at the end, it is what it is. We have tried here at the city of Savannah over the last couple of months to. It is what it is. We have tried here at the city of Savannah over the last couple of months. Somebody. Okay. We've tried over the last couple of months to make sure that we are very transparent. We've said from day one that we would bring people to the table and communicate with people. At this point, the state has not chosen to communicate with us. And so I just spoke to serenity prayer. Lord, allow me to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. We're here, we've been here, and we're certainly open to communication where we can. But in the end, it's definitely a two-way street.
And my other question for you quickly is, if Governor Kemp's shelter in place does expire April 30th and he doesn't extend it any further, do you plan on making any shelter in place order to continue in Savannah through May?
Well, again, I think the emergency is ordered forbids us from enacting it. She's saying after. Oh, after? We would have to talk. So, again, I think that we have a variety of options available to us. Before I go back to Ms. Alex, Adam, tell your son I said hello.
And I wanted to ask, so, a governing body as a whole, needs to work together, obviously, to accomplish things. And here, obviously, there's a divide, essentially. And what I want to know is, on the other side of this, do you think it's going to impact, how Georgia leads together? Do you think it sort of is going to have a long-lasting damaging effect on, how you all work together going forward?
To me, this is not, it's nothing personal. I'm doing what I'm charged to do. I'm charged to protect the citizens of Savannah. There are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. And my interests is Savannah, period. I just want the state to recognize that we matter here in coastal Georgia too. There are people outside of Metro Atlanta. And here on the coast, we have very unique needs. We are, major interstate runs through us. And so we're affected by what happens in the two states. We're affected by what happens in Florida and what happens in South Carolina. So it's important to us that we receive not only information, but communication as well. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm frustrated with what has occurred, but in the end, Brian Kemp is still our governor, and the city of Savannah will continue to work with him, his office, to do what we can to move Georgia forward. So for me, it's not personal. Anybody else? Adam, tell you something. I'm looking at him. He can at least wave at me. Adam?
Yeah, he's pouting a little bit. He's trying to learn from home.
Oh, yeah. That homeschooling really sucks, doesn't it?
What do you say? Does it stink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand it. And big shout outs again. I will say that the school system, Dr. Levetta knows, in the midst of really the worst case scenarios in the class of 2020, put forth some measures to be able to try to recognize them. We believe it's appropriate, certainly probably not adequate, but given the situation in which we live in, I think they're just doing the absolute best we can. So I certainly will continue to congratulate the class of 2020 at all levels, from pre-K all the way through college. This time does not diminish your accomplishment. And we continue here at the City of Savannah to be extraordinarily proud of you, extraordinarily proud of what you accomplished. And the fact of the matter is, you'll be able to tell your children and grandchildren that you graduated during the COVID-19 crisis. You overcame that. And so to me, that's just extra special. We all of our graduates from public and private schools. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you all so much. We will continue to press on in the best interest of the city of Savannah. We're not tired of this yet. We're going to make sure that we protect our folks. Beloved people of Savannah, continue to use common sense. Do the right things. Again, a governor's order or mayor's order cannot stop you from doing the right thing. You know what's best for your family. You know what's best for your households. You know the science has not caught up with our orders. So therefore, please stay home, socially distance, protect yourself, and protect Savannah. God bless you. Thank you all so much.
And you have been listening there to Savannah Mayor Van Johnson updating the city on efforts to fight coronavirus. Clearly in that update, he is not happy with Governor Kemp's plans to reopen some businesses this Friday and next Monday, but he also was very clear that his hands, because of the governor's order, are somewhat tied. With that said, he says while he cannot order any local businesses not to open, he is asking them to stay closed for now. He says